Hey, what's up, guys? Dale Cover here, back again with another video. This time I am going to review a book called Master of Ceremonies by TC Tahoe. Now, as a comedian, hosting is one of the most challenging jobs that you'll ever have to do. And being a good host can make a real difference in your career. So I picked up this book to kind of get some tips and tricks from this veteran in the game. I'll share a couple with you, share a little bit of my experience when it comes to hosting. Now, a lot of people don't like to host. They want to just jump to featuring and headlining as quick as possible. But I'm going to tell you, man, hosting, the skills involved in hosting, if you embrace those, if you take your time to really develop that craft, when you do get to the point where you're featuring and headlining, you'll be way ahead of the game. The skills you learn through hosting, that you're forced to learn through hosting, are indispensable. This book is pretty good. It's a very short book, like I said, by TC Tahoe. I grabbed it off Amazon. Figured I'd grab something real quick. It's only about $10 or so, a fun read. It's only 60 pages, not too much in there. But he says a few things that I thought were pretty cool to add to my bag. I'll share 3 things with you. You should grab the book. Because he had a lot more than just 3 things. But one of the first things he said, which I've actually used too, is he says his introduction. He says, introduce yourself and the show just like that. That's one of the first things you say. So he has it like this, right? He says, when you walk on the stage, say something like, welcome to XYZ Comedy Show. My name is Dale Cover. We got a great show for you today. Boom. Just like that. You know, very professional. Makes people think like, okay, this guy he's in charge, he's in control. If you don't think about it, you probably might just walk out there and not really know exactly what you want to say. You might want to say, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Or are we having a good time? Ready for some whatever, But I think this is pretty cool. Really good way to just, especially when I'm hosting. When I'm hosting some shows, I just want to just make sure I set the table and get everyone organized and prepared for the comics that they're going to see that night. So I kind of take the hosting job from more very seriously, like a sort of professional level, because there's a job to be done. It's not only to get out there and tell your jokes. It's really not your time as a host. You have your time when you're, like I said, featuring, headlining. Those are your shows. But when you're hosting, you'll do well to do a really good professional job and have a plan for it. So this book really helps, right? 2 more things that he says that I actually tried, and I thought that was pretty cool. I never really thought about it from this perspective. And this book is not just speaking about hosting from comedy. It says hosting, comedy, and more. So he's thinking like, for example, hosting a television show or something like that. So just general hosting things that I hadn't thought about and explored until I read this book. Right, so that's why it's a good book, and I'm sharing it with you. One of the things he said, when you introduce a person, you keep your hand out, right? So you'll say, "Oh, come to the stage, really funny guy, Mr. Joe Smith." He says, "You keep your hand out like this, but you keep your hand out," he says, "until the person actually comes up on stage and you shake that person's hand, and you exit." Never did that before. Usually just sat there and just waited, and but keep your hand out. So try it. You might feel good about it, right? Coming to the stage. Boom, just a little bit of professionalism. One other thing that he said that was kind of cool is he said exit the opposite way on the stage that the act you introduced came. So if I say, welcome to the stage, Mr. Joe Smith, and Joe Smith comes up, I'll shake Joe Smith's hand, and I exit this way because Joe Smith came in this way. Now you can't always do that because sometimes the stage only has one set of steps, etc. But when he says it, you're thinking about it. Like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes it is kind of clumsy when you're shaking your hand. You kind of walk behind the dude and you go the same way he came. But yeah, so I started doing that. When I can, I'm looking. I'm like, okay, the dude's gonna come this way. I'm gonna go that way. So it's just like little things that you may not have thought about, but that'll just really take your game to the next level. So that's just a few of the tips and tricks that he had in this book. I'm not going to go through all of them just because, out of respect for TC Tahoe, man, pick up the book, man. It's worth it. $10, good read. Yeah. And as far as my personal experience with hosting, like I said, when you're hosting, you really have a job to do. And if you do your job well, it can really make a difference between the success of the show. I'll give you an example of a show I had a couple of weeks ago. I work with a fundraising group called Funny for Funds. out here in based out of Rhode Island. They do tons of fundraisers every weekend. I think we got like 9 shows, three on a Thursday, Fridays, Saturday. So they put on a lot of shows for a lot of nonprofits and things like that. So very on the conservative side, I would say, because they're trying to build a brand and the type of, it's not a comedy club, right? It's fundraising. So I'm hosting this show, and the challenge of this particular room was such that it was in a hotel. I think it was a um, I forget the kind of the hotel. Popular hotel though. Holiday Inn, I think it was. Yeah, and they had a stage, beautiful stage, big, nice size stage. So a decent room, but the bar. It's one of those bars they just kind of wheel up and move. It's not like a stationary bar or something that they set up, but it's outside of the room. And if you ever been to someone's house or a bar, people like to stay in the kitchen or they like to hang around the bar. So everyone was there, finally got to the show, the guests, but they were all hanging around the bar, drinking and talking and standing up. And the people that were in the room were standing all the way in the back near the raffles, because Funny for Funds helps you do raffles, etc. So they're all standing in the back near the raffles. And so we waited as much time as we can for everybody to kind of filter in. And so it was my job to go up and kick off the show. But the challenge I had is everybody's outside. Not everybody, but man, 75% of the people were out. So it's probably a couple hundred people, 150 people, whatever. But we're outside at the bar, not even concerned about comedy at this moment. They were just laughing, probably haven't seen each other outside of, I think it was for baseball. So they probably only see each other every once in a while at a baseball game. So they were, but I had to get them into their seats. And so I told the comic that was going up first, very funny comic from New Hampshire. His name is Mike Holmes. I was like, all right, I'm the host. So if I don't get these guys to sit down by the time you come up, I failed. I failed to do my job. Right, because that's what my job is. That's, as a host, that's your job. So I had to go and pretty much. It was a struggle for me. And I mean, when I say struggle, I mean it wasn't a situation where I could just. The table wasn't set for me. I had to work, and I had a specific job to do. So I had to, get up there and introduce the show. Like I said, that tip was really good. Welcome to a Funny for Funds. Well, with Funny for Funds, we have a certain kind of introduction that we like to do anyway. But that's why it's important, because I'm gonna let people know. The lights come down, and I give them a little clue, like, oh, I think something's starting. Then we get to come up. Welcome to the show. This is a Funny for Fun show, or whatever your show is, XYZ show. My name is Dale Culver. We got a great show for you tonight. So it's like, okay, this is official. So that kind of gets them to pay attention a little bit. But meanwhile, you still got the people drinking. So I got to go out into the crowd a little bit, and some of the techniques he talks about in this book. And we'll get into this later when we talk about. I'll dedicate a video to the act of engaging the crowd and pulling people in. I do a lot of shows in bars and stuff, and bar shows are great. People hate them because they're tough, but they're great because you learn a skill that the more raggedy the bar, the better you learn these skills, is to be able to go out and grab people and bring them into your show. Even though they're sitting there, they'll sit there with their back facing to you, staring at the television screen, watching the hockey game that has no sound, but they still will sit there with their back to you. So how do you get them to turn around and say, hey, we got a show going on over here, and you might want to be a part of this? So you really have to kind of go out into the crowd and pull them in, one by one, table by table. That's kind of what I had to do at this fundraiser. I had to get people to sit down, so I had to engage with them, and I had to get them to be quiet. I had to get them to kind of pay attention. I had to do that all in about 10 minutes, It wasn't really a time for me to tell my jokes yet, because they're not going to listen to my jokes. They're standing out in the hallway. So I really had to work to get them in there. So definitely, when it comes to hosting, embrace it, because you'll learn those skills. And as a host, that's your job, because when that first comic comes up, you want the crowd to be listening and engage and paying attention, so that he can have that easy job. But he's going to take it from there. A good opener, he's going to take it from there and establish that, hey man, we are a funny crew. you should relax and enjoy yourself. So then when the second guy comes on, and by the time the headliner comes on, it should be a wrap. And so that particular show, I had to work. By the time I got to the 5 minutes in or whatever, I was to a point where I could tell a few jokes, to get them into the rhythm of hearing some jokes. So I got some slipped some by and started getting laughs. They was getting to that rhythm. So when I went to go sit down, the headliner, he was like, "Hey man, you did a good job." I was like, "Yeah, because it's not the most fun when you're fighting, or you're fighting to get the crowd to pay attention." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "No. There's a lot of guys that went up there and they would have just said a couple things and then brought up the first act." He's like, "But you really brought them in and got them to pay attention." So he's a seasoned headliner. He's been doing it for 25 years, so. He appreciates that stuff, and it worked out well because by the time I went, then the first guy went, and then the second guy went. By the time he got up, they were paying attention to every word he had to say, and he was up there for a little over an hour. Which is what the job is. That's a job well done. So sometimes as a host, they call it taking the bullet because you may not be able to present yourself and your comedy the way you want to because you have a job to do. But I think if you embrace that job and embrace it to the full extent possible, it'll help you later on in the long run. Because it's funny, like when I do shows, when I headline shows, or when I'm doing a show and I'm just not hosting, it's so much easier because I just come up there and my first line could just jump into a joke. I don't even have to mess with nobody. I could just go through my material. Keep my time and get out. But as a host, sometimes you gotta just fight with them. So yeah. So my advice, like I said, is embrace hosting. Hosting will teach you a whole lot of skills. And me, I'm a scientist. I always like to not only try stuff out, but I like to kind of read what other people have to say, other people that have been through things, and then. Reading is just not enough. So if you read something, you're like, you know what, this is good. Go right out there and try it out and see if it helps you. But I recommend this book, TC Tahoe. And there's probably tons of other books like it. But yeah, definitely take your Master of Ceremonies game to the next level, and it'll help you. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Leave me a comment on that and tell me if you feel the same or not. If you think hosting is stupid and no one needs a host. I like to hear that too. But all right. My name is Dale Cover. Subscribe to the channel. I will be coming with more tips and just plain old conversations about how to perform comedy and how to get better and my experience and things like that. All right. Enjoy the night. Peace.